Okay, well, just a quick update. Still waiting for a couple parts to come in. Nobody around where I live has a valve spring compressor. Fancy that. I tried to get a head. There's only one head available from all the surrounding junkyards from another one MZFE V6, and they told me they'd call me back after they pull it out to see what condition it was in, and they took my deposit to pull it out. It was 125, and they call me back 3 hours later and tell me the head's crap. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and I did order a valve just in case last week, and it's coming in today. And I'm just going to go ahead and just replace that valve and lap it in and call it a day. And maybe if I have to, I'll take it in for to skim the top just to clean it. I'll check it for straightness. But anyway, so I'm waiting for a couple more things to come in for this. And my wife and I are still car shopping because I realize she is just as picky as I am, because she does understand she keeps her car and has to live with it 15 years. So she wants to get something she's going to be happy with, and I don't have any problem with that. But now we were using this car, which is my 2004 325 CI manual. Only way to roll. All these cars are manuals. My projects that have sat in my 99 996. That's going to be next. I am finishing this car. And it's funny because if you look at some of my videos, I got into watchmaking. And so this was my original hobby, cars, okay? And maybe a lot of you guys or gals out there have been into different hobbies that were technical or mechanical, and you just branched off into watchmaking, and that's where I've been in my. And there's a benefit too. It's cleaner. You're not having to lay on your back. I've been going back and forth about buying at least a scissors lift, because at least with my garage, I have enough height to actually be able to use a scissors lift. Harbor Freight sells one, but I think there's a couple other places that I would go with maybe. Anyways, nothing against Harbor Freight. It's just I probably would want to see if I can get a 110, because I don't have my garage wired for 220, and a lot of those pumps are 220. Anyways, so we're taking my car going up north near Chicago to look for my wife a new and used car, and I felt the brakes on this because this car has sat since I retired early in 2019, and the car is really getting like maybe 5,000 miles a year. And now that we're really using it for longer distances, I was feeling something where the brakes felt a little squishy. Now, the calipers on here, I'm almost positive, are the original since 2004 when this car was built. I think people, whoever serviced this car, if it was either the dealership or the guy who owned it, it just did maybe rotors and just did pads. But these appear to be the original calipers. So just thought as a good measure. Well, actually, I had to, because when I did the brakes on the front, when I put the pads on, I bought Bosch brake pads and coated rotors. I'm not really messing with these. I've learned not to mess with these uncoated rotors anymore. Even if you buy them plain and just buy a can of like spray, the high temp spray paint, it's still more time than it's worth, because they're only about $10 more at the most for coated versus uncoated. So that's my advice. If you're going to buy rotors, just buy coated, because they look so much better and they hold up better, especially in the state we live in the Rust Belt here. And this car doesn't see winters that much. I hardly ever drive it in the winter at all. So anyways, so I did the front brake pads and rotor, took it for a drive. The next day I pulled up, I noticed there was some fluid on the driver's side wheel. So I said, oh boy, this is not going to be good. So I took off the wheel, and sure enough, it was leaking around the piston. And anybody who works on cars knows is you do take a risk when you have original calipers this old and you reset the piston, because you have to push back the piston to get the new pads in. So I just got on AutoZone, called them up, and they ordered their remanufactured calipers, which I didn't want to do, but AutoZone's closest, and now that we're down to no cars, I had no choice, because it is within walking distance. Boy, not having a car really humbles you. I'll tell you, if we don't know how take for granted how nice it is to have wheels that you can go places. So Anyways, but the exercise is good too because I walk my dogs every day for an hour, so I'm not out of shape where I can't walk to AutoZone and get my parts. Although carrying 2 bags of rotors back weren't were gave me a little bit more workout in this almost 90-degree day. That was funny. My wife was laughing at me. But anyways, um, so I put on the new calipers on the front. I was a little nervous about the you know the lines coming out, but they did come out. I was kind of ginger with them, but they're nice and they're actually I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. Not that I'm bashing AutoZone, but these are the same calipers that you take in for a core exchange, and then they send off and have them rebuilt, and they actually paint them or powder coat them or whatever they do, and they look factory. I think that's the factory E46 BMW color. So that I was actually pleasantly surprised. Everything looks good, but I haven't been able to make sure they don't leak yet because as I got them on and was getting ready to bleed, the rear brake line busted here, and it's just enough pressure. I think I was having my wife put on, not her fault, but if you push, there's stories out there where people do a hard brake to avoid like an accident or something, and that's how you find a rusted line, especially in the salt belt. And it's the line that's going back to the passenger side rear wheel. And BMW, that's factory here, has a little nut here, connection coupler here, that then it branches off to the back wheel. So they do DIN, they do bubble flares. Most European cars do. And some Japanese, I think everybody's doing, I don't know if they're doing double or the bubble flare. I'm not sure if like Japanese cars are. Double flares are actually more durable. I'm kind of surprised that German cars do the bubble flares, but that's just the way I think BMW does it. And I was able to break that with penetrating oil overnight and soaking. I was able to break that connection, but problem is you're really not supposed to reuse once it's compressed a bubble flare. You have to kind of redo it. So I had a Harbor Freight tool, a brake flare tool, and it never worked. Like a lot of people complained, so I took it back, and I was going to order the Lyle one, and of course you forget, and then you get into a situation like this where you need one. So I ordered some copper brake line, all Amazon, so it's like 2-day, 1 day, depending on where it's located. So I think I'm getting like the flaring toolkit, the Lyle toolkit from Amazon today, and I'm going to bubble flare those. I'm going to see if I can actually utilize. It looks like from here there's no rust on it, but on the E46, and it goes for, this is the coupe, and it also goes for I think the wagon and the sedan. The rear brake lines roll up underneath the gas tank right about here. So what a lot of guys are doing, I was kind of watching a couple of videos that are routing the lines. They'll cut it here and flare it out and do a coupling here and just run it around the fuel tank, because dropping the fuel tank's a pain. I don't really want to do that if I don't have to. If I can utilize that line coming out, I'll put a branch off here, a coupler, and then see if I can rebubble that line over there. There's not much room in there, but I'll see what I can do. But that's just the way it is. You're down to one car, and then all of a sudden the car you use, because you're not using that much, I use this car, but I'm maybe 5,000 or 6,000 miles a year, but I felt like something was wrong with the brakes. And I'm almost sure that these are the original calipers to the car. So I want to do the backs, but right now I need to sort out that line first. So like I said, or anybody will say, when it rains, it pours. And we're still trying to figure out what car to get. Car shopping is, I don't know, the more we look at, the more confused we are. She just needs to make a decision. So do I need to help ensure she gets the car she wants. So, yeah, we're rolling on. I'm going to be walking back to AutoZone to get me a couple more things. And I got my orders from Amazon coming in today. Thank God for Amazon Prime 2-day. And we have warehouses in the Chicago metro area all over the place, so that's probably why they're coming pretty quick. I ordered the flare kit yesterday, and it's coming today. So, and my wife's doing a rental now because we're freaking out because we have no cars. So, but we have 4 cars. But excuse me. I think my watchmaking may take a little bit of sidestepping, because somehow I'm getting more interested. This was like any other hobby. You lose a little interest because you've been doing it so long. I had 2 motorcycles when I was younger too. I used to be kind of wild. I'd ride motorcycles on the back roads like at 120. I shouldn't say that, but I'd run them at high speed. Let's put it that way. decades ago. Excuse me, get some dust in here. But as I've gotten older, I've slowed down, like in my late 50s. So working on cars is a little bit harder now, but you just take your time and, you get the satisfaction of doing it yourself. And I kind of have OCD with doing it right. So I want to make sure it's done right so I don't have to, nothing like doing it half-assed and having to go revisit it, a week later or a month later. Just, coupling brake lines, flaring out and putting in another joint, that's not an issue if you do it correctly. It's never going to be a problem. My concern is just the design of this car in the Rust Belt. This has always been like in this region where and I'm pretty sure this car has been driven through the winter years. And BMWs generally, excuse me, hold up very well rust-wise, but this, when it comes from the factory, these trailing arms are black. Well, you can see they're starting to rust. And I think I'm going to look into that lanolin-based. There's another YouTuber that's gone through extensive videos on lanolin-based rust inhibitors. And I think I'm going to start doing that. And just because I want to keep this car a long time. Because I went through two E39 5 Series, all manuals. Well, the first one was an automatic. I'm sorry. The second one was a manual. I had to get rid of the automatic. I can't stand autos. I got to have a true manual, but this car shows in really good shape. It's all stock, but it was probably driven through, like I said, Illinois winters, and that's why you got some rust to deal with. If I could ever get like a 330 CI from these years, like this is a 2004, like from California or something, I'd pay a premium. I don't care if it was 15,000. I would love. I think for a daily driver, an M3, I would love to have an E46 M3, not with the was it the SMG? I forget what is it with the auto manual. The earlier versions of the DTC, the dual clutches. I think I'm using the right technology. If not, correct me. I'd want a true, manual transmission, but and those cars are nice. But I think for a daily livable car you can live with, I think a 330 CI is just perfect. Even this 325 CI was rated at 184 horsepower, and with the, let's see, the differential is like a 323 differential with the 5-speed. This doesn't have the Getrag. I think this, not the Getrag. Let's see. There's two. I think this is the Getrag 5-speed, and then the other one, I guess, is there's two transmissions on this. The 5-speed, I'll have to look at that. The one, I think the Getrag's the 6-speed, and it's a little bit more durable. And if you got a 2004 330 CI, you would have got the 6-speed. That would have been a nice car to find, but those were harder to find, especially up here. I was happy just to get this one. It's got I got to do the trim here, but otherwise it shows in good shape. There's no rust or anything. So typical interior cloth peeling off, but you can get some 3M adhesive for fabric, and you just put that back on. But now, thankfully, I'm not exiting watchmaking, but I kind of have to put it on hold. I think I'm getting more back into cars again, so I'm falling into my old hobby of this. So time to get these babies rolling. And I always wanted to trade this 99 as a 996 in black. I always wanted to trade or get rid of this and get an air-cooled 70s through 80s 911. Actually, sell both of these. That's a 79 928, both manuals. Like I said, the only automatic in this garage is my wife's 99 Lexus. And even her car, being an Illinois car, she putting on as many miles as she did, the car's in great shape. It's just got a little rust starting right before the rear well, which is typical of these cars in the Rust Belt states. So for a 99, this is the most reliable car in this garage. And it showed. But, my BMW here's got 151 or 153,000 on it. And in the 4 years I've had it, it's given me hardly no problems, but I'm not putting that many miles like my wife reminded me. So, you start putting on the miles like you do with this baby, and you're going to see, I think the Lexus Toyota product's going to be superior. So anyways, there's my returns. There's a brake line I go out just in case I had to, when you take off the brake line off a caliper that's been on there since birth and it's rusted, you always worry about it breaking, because BMW, actually this line, the BMW's got a longer tube, so it's more prone to breaking when it's rusted in. The replacement line from AutoZone, which again, I had no choice but to buy this one because it was close. I do kind of like that design because it's closer to caliper and less possibility when it, if it gets rusted in a little bit, so of breaking. So anyways, on to the next project.